going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
But the prime time, bitch!
Long live the new Fletch.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
We've got to return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And I feel like I was stitched together from 7 different people, Mike.
And it's Jill.
And we are back for another Patreon pick. And for the first time in Patreon pick history, we have the person on the episode. Because dear friend, horror hound, just beloved on this podcast, Patrick from every horror movie on Netflix. I always want to keep the joke going of every movie on Netflix, but it feels tired and beaten.
Yeah, don't put that on me. I don't like it when you do that. It scares me. It makes me worried that I'm getting into more than I ever actually asked for.
Although you guys are you back on Netflix now, or is it still the A24 stuff?
It is still A24. We switched our format from watching, reviewing, and discussing every horror movie on Netflix to watching every A24 horror movie because there was, of course, a writer's strike, and now an actor's strike still ongoing, and A24 is really one of the only studios that's actually given in to strikers' demands and treated them the way they deserve to be. So until the actor's strike resolves, we're watching significantly better movies than we usually do.
Yes, which the key word is better movies. We'll find out from this episode. So for you guys that are new to our Patreon pick episodes, this is a pick Patrick got to pick because he is a horror hound, and at that tier on Patreon, you get to pick a movie that we review, and we do it within a year, I believe it says in the fine print. And if you are looking to be able to do that and you want to support the show, like our horror hounds, Holly, Nicholas, Patrick, Mark, Stephen, Joy, and Carvey, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams, which is hosted by Jill and has me on it also, and get episodes of the main show 48 hours early. Be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whichever tier works best for you. But we are going to get into the main event of this evening. That was your pick, Patrick. Just a classic film. I think it's in the American Film Institute. 2004's Van Helsing. Why don't you let people know why you picked this one for us?
Yeah, so I had never seen it before, and as we mentioned already, usually we watch every horror movie on Netflix for our podcast, and Van Helsing was on Netflix for quite some time, so it had been on my short list. It's one of those ones that just fascinates me, because I know it's not generally well regarded, but it just has this trashy appeal of monster mashup. I love Universal monster movies, and it's Hugh Jackman fighting basically or a significant percentage, let's say, of the Universal monsters. Sure, let's go.
What's not to love? Literally throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Exactly.
Well, let's get into the trailer and we'll get back with the synopsis and first experiences.
My life, my job, my curse is to vanquish evil. The night falls. How do I kill him? The moon rises.
No one knows how to kill Dracula.
The hunt begins. Who's hunting whom? Now, adventure has a new name. Van Helsing. On the DVD now.
2004's Van Helsing is directed and written by Stephen Sommers, and the synopsis is as follows. The one name they all fear. Famed monster slayer Gabrielle Van Helsing is dispatched to Transylvania to assist the last of the Valerius bloodline in defeating Count Dracula. Anna Valerius reveals that Dracula has formed an unholy alliance with Dr. Frankenstein's monster and is hellbent on exacting a centuries-old curse on her family. So we'll start with our first experiences. Is this our first time seeing Van Helsing? Or did we see this so much we were inspired by Hugh Jackman to grow out our hair long, wear brimmed hats, and, just get our monster ass kicking on? We'll start with you, Patrick. Is this your first time seeing it?
Yes, it was.
Oh, wow.
He just said that like 5 minutes ago.
I did. Pull it together, Rowan.
I mean, I've got to ask in this segment.
You're a mess.
So.
You're a mess.
I've got to ask in this segment.
It's true. I'm sorry. I couldn't keep it together.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah, no, I've never seen this before. Back in the day of the, like, action horror, like, boom, I just think it was one of those. There's so many similar movies coming out all at once that it, like, somehow slipped under my radar, and I literally, until we got the pick, forgot that it existed. So this was a fun first watch. Jill, what about you?
Man, I wish I could have repressed it enough to forget that it existed. But this, like, would have been right up my alley the year it came out, when I was in, like, high school and, like, really into horror, really into, like, fantasy, all of that kind of shit, really, really into Kate Beckinsale.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it just didn't work for me when I saw it, as a teenager. Even with Kate Beckinsale, I was just drawn to Underworld more. But, yeah, that's my experience with it. What about you, Rowan?
So I've seen this one other time. It's kind of funny because I've been circling the bandwagons on this for a little bit, just because I recently, for the first time, saw The Mummy, because I had never seen it growing up, and I was aware it was the same guy.
Mike's reaction to that.
So, yeah, I was kind of like, oh, yeah, he also did Van Helsing. I remembered seeing it when it came out, but I don't remember anything about it. My thoughts on it, I don't remember. So, this is kind of, a second but first time viewing of it. So with that, let's get into the corsets and gothic set dressing of it all. And you know where we're gonna start. Our favorite scene and or favorite kill. Jill, you've been looking so forward to this episode. We'll start with you.
Holy shit. That is a loaded question. I don't have a favorite scene or kill, but just to not be a total piece of shit, I'm gonna say, because you're just talking about the corsets and the gothic dresses and all that. The wardrobe, really well done in this movie. The props were cool. I really loved the costumes and whatnot. Wigs could have been better, but that's, usually the situation with wigs. So yeah, I liked the costumes. My favorite scene is probably one with Kate Beckinsale's full face and body. What about you, Mike?
I know it was rough. I kind of was a big fan of any scene, and there was like 3, that takes place in that, like, Frankenstein's laboratory setup, like, at the top of the castle. I just thought that was so cool, and, like, I could see what they were doing with it, and it was, like, amping up the universal monsterness of it to, like, 50. And I just, it's, like, something about that aesthetic and the, like, lightning-y crackles, and it's, like, CG Frankenstein. I don't know, every time because I feel like it was 3 different times, maybe I probably should have paid more attention. Definitely 2, if not 3 scenes there. I just love that. I thought it was fantastic. That was my favorite set in the whole movie, which is saying something because this movie actually had great sets, if you can call what I'm assuming was mostly green screen sets. But yeah, what about you, Patrick?
I was gonna say quickly, it's worth noting that, like, kind of where Anna and Van Helsing, like, I did see that where they fight Dracula and stuff and that whole set, that's actually an original Universal Studios set. It's the Court of Miracles. It's on the Universal Studios lot, but they shot the Wolfman, Frankenstein, and Dracula on that set. So probably one of the reasons it looks so great.
That's awesome.
Anyway, I interrupted. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I had experienced significant diminishing returns with this as it went along and kind of wore on me. So honestly, I want to say my favorite scene and kill was probably the first one. I liked the chase with Mr. Hyde. Which also was kind of a weird coincidence because I happened to watch the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie the night before this, so it was like two shitty like CG interpretations of Mr. Hyde / Dr. Jekyll within the same 48 hours. But I don't know. It was a big, dumb, stupid, fun fight. Having it on top of Notre Dame was kind of a fun set piece. It was ridiculous. It was a good introduction to what the movie was trying to do, and to a certain degree, it was a bit downhill from there for me because it was like you get the idea, and then they just do that over and over and over again for 2 fucking hours.
I love how they tried to do a like that moment had that little like they just waited like a minute to drop it in and be like, you know, Jekyll and Hyde, and you're like, oh my god, it's them, you know.
Yeah.
I just thought that was such a cool. It's like, they really thought they were like doing something there, and like, oh yeah, look, here we go, plot twist. It's like, I appreciate what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
For me, I'm not as harsh on this as you guys. I did have a favorite scene, so I really enjoyed like the mortician in this, the kind of grave keeper guy, but his kill scene with the Wolfman or a Wolfman, where he's like attacked and then they just kind of do the like slapsticky kind of made me think of some of these older Universal films, especially like the Abbott and Costello comedy versions where he gets knocked into the grave and then his hat lands on the shovel and it starts spinning. And I thought that was kind of witty, and I was like, there's no way it's not kind of this nod to Abbott and Costello and this like slapsticky horror brand that they kind of created back then.
No, it's true. I actually had that as like one of my favorite scenes as well, and I was like, it kind of has a weird like almost like trying to like nod to Tim Burton. I found maybe, I don't know. I was probably reaching.
I mean, there's probably a conversation that this is all a nod to Tim Burton, but...
Fair, yeah.
I did wonder, what this movie would look like if Tim Burton did it. I was like, the sets look Tim Burton, like, the kind of feel. It kind of had, like, this fantastical Tim Burton-ish feel. Everyone was real pale.
Also, a little bit of a Zack Snyder feel, because I got, like, Sucker Punch vibes for some reason. But
maybe not as good, but
I really love Sucker Punch.
So do I.
Oh, listen, Sucker Punch is in my like top 10 of all time, so don't get me started.
Friend of the podcast, Willow, one of her most hated movies, Sucker Punch. It's our very heated debate. I wanted to start this off at the beginning because I really love the Universal logo change, where we go from the colored Universal logo to the black and white being pulled into this like old-timey Universal Monsters world. And almost sad that this didn't last the entire movie. Like, we get the whole intro in black and white, and I just feel like that would have been a choice. Like, it would have really just given it this feel that they were going for, I think. But I'm curious, like, Patrick, did that work for you, or?
Yeah, it definitely did work for me. Again, I love the original Universal monster movies, so it was a great throwback to that. I think it's even in a different aspect ratio, or am I just like kind of retroactively imagining that? Okay,
no, I think it's in like a widescreen ratio.
Yeah, but no, I really loved that, and also would have kind of enjoyed seeing more of that aesthetic through the movie, if not like complete black and white. Maybe some more kind of nods to that instead of this kind of crushed out like Tim Burton-y, Zack Snyder-y, bluish gray muck that we get a lot of the time.
I think that I would like to see myself, maybe if they put out a really cheap Blu-ray of this and there was an option for like watch the whole movie with the filter on. And so you just have that black and white monster movie filter the whole movie. I would probably watch it again just to
you really
kind of see
want
if that
that's you want Zack Snyder to get his hands on this and give that black and white Snyder cut.
I want Zack Snyder to get his hands on a lot of things, and that is definitely one of them.
Oh shit! But then the movie would be like 4 hours long.
Well,
it's already over 2, so we already tipped the scale.
Mike, do you have a crush on Zack Snyder, or are you actually saying like you want him to direct more like properties?
Both.
Or was that a sexual innuendo? Oh, okay, all right.
Agree.
Both, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an attractive man. He's a very ripped man, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't want him getting his hands on any IP, though.
No, listen, he can. He
just
can do
my
his own...
pee.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay, I'm leaving. Goodbye.
So
I just came up with
Jail.
that. It's all up here.
Yeah.
Well, I thought the length of this was kind of interesting because for a guy that's so influenced by the Universal monster movies, and I really do believe that like Stephen Sommers has a love and appreciation for these. I mean, obviously known for The Mummy. I think he pretty much, it was like X-Men, Mummy, and then this, I think, because I know Hugh was doing X2 while they had crossed filming this in X2. But I just thought it was interesting because one of the things, I think about when we reviewed Dracula, and, I loved that movie. I do love all the Universal stuff, but like one of the awesome things that Universal kind of figured out that most horror movies don't figure out is like you want to get in and you want to get out. Like you want to make your movie short and but packed full of just awesomeness. Because I'm like, I was thinking about like Dracula. Like Dracula's like what, hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes. Obviously, it's longer if you're looking at like the director's cut or whatever. They do have a longer version. But yeah, those are like under an hour 20, where Sommers didn't learn the lesson, and he's like, you know what? 2 hours and 10 minutes, or however long this movie is, like 2:15, I think, almost. A little long in the tooth. And I don't think there was that much story to tell, because we kind of tell the same story over again twice with Dracula's kids.
Yeah, such plot as there is not the plot twists, such as they are yeah, there's not a lot here other than just CGI monster fight after CGI monster fight.
Bad CGI monster fight after.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because it's funny that you brought up Dracula, and I mean obviously you would because that's an integral part of this movie, but
Daddy Lugosi, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking how that film in particular takes this 300-page novel and hits all the major beats. And to me, it's like a perfect adaptation. But to be fair to this, they are taking 8 different movie properties and usually books. But again, how do you take that much literary foundation and somehow still have no plot? It should be overstuffed and not making sense because they're trying to do too much. But it's there is no plot. But somehow, I mean, and it's still over 2 hours. It just doesn't make sense to me. Make it make sense.
Yeah, where the monsters are almost interchangeable at times. I guess Frankenstein has kind of a different personality for sure, but for the most part, they're kind of interchangeable. I mean, especially wait, are we doing a spoiler space this time, or can I talk about the whole movie?
This podcast spoils at all times.
Oh, okay. I thought that you guys tried to keep it spoiler free at first.
For now slaying.
Oh, okay. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. When you get to the end and you've got Dracula in monster mode and Van Helsing turning into a werewolf, it's just those should be kind of two distinct feeling things, but I was checked out at this point too. I was fairly checked out, but I was just wait, which is which? Is Dracula a wolf now? What the fuck is going on?
You literally look down to pick up your cup of coffee or something, and it's am I in a different movie?
Right.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Which is perplexing because these are very distinct characters, iconic characters for a reason, and it just, especially with a writer-director who has what seems to be a lot of passion for them, you would think that it would come through a little more. I don't know. It's kind of weird, honestly, because it almost feels like the work of somebody who doesn't care, but he does.
Yeah, like, it's like, were you some hack that was just hired to do the job, you know what I mean? Or did you want to, right? It really does seem like someone who's just like, okay, I'm banging this out for a paycheck, like, truly.
Yeah, and there's like a strong emotional core to a lot of these characters, too, which just kind of flies out the window in this.
Through no fault of the actors, either. I mean, I feel like they're doing their best, but...
They're trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's...
Maybe. I don't know Hugh Jackman, but...
Well, I was just about to mention him. Like, I mean, I think he is doing his best, and there's just nothing there. Because, I mean, like, the man is charismatic, you know? Like, he brings it most of the time. I feel like if he doesn't come across in the movie, it's, like, never his fault. Like, he's always doing the best that he can. He's, I've never really seen him, like, phone something in other than when he just has nothing to work with, which he does in this. Like, the character is just generic as shit and doesn't even really have a personality. Like, I had no sense of who this character was supposed to be.
No.
The only significant information you receive about him is way at the end, and it really doesn't matter at all when it does come out finally what his secret is. It's like, okay, and
like, to me, if this was, like, you're right, and this was him at his peak, like, this was, you know, movie star era Hugh Jackman. Like, if he can't bring it, then, like, there's something wrong. And also, it's like, you're right, because if the movie wasn't called Van Helsing, I would have just kept forgetting that that's who this character was supposed to be, because there was just nothing there. It was just, like you said, it's like, just this everyman, and not in a good way. Like, who the fuck is this? This empty screen, this vessel.
Yeah, well, even, like, we talked about X-Men before, and I don't know, I think about those movies sometimes, and they're, I mean, as, like, a huge X-Men nerd, they're a mixed bag, and those are, like, some pretty underwritten characters in those movies. Like, I don't think there's a lot on the page, necessarily, for Wolverine, but he brought so much energy and charisma, and I think probably also read up on comics to get a little more sense of the character, and, you know, like, he made that character to the point where fucking 20 years later, like, they still can't stop casting him, and he's, like, you know, verging on senior citizenhood now.
Yeah.
So I guess I just bring that all up to say, like, it's a real sign of just how much nothing was there for this role that he couldn't even pull something out of it.
I mean, to me, I just blame this on the fall. I'm like, this is what happens when you have a generation of people that gassed up the Mummy. You just let this guy have this power. We don't ever have to review the Mummy, because I'll just tell you I hate it now. It's so overrated. I mean, I'll be upfront. I think this is better than the Mummy. I mean, I think this is more entertaining.
Whoa.
Absolutely not.
Far more entertaining.
You're wrong, sir.
I'm correct, but...
Okay, the Mummy was like a whole generation's bisexual awakening.
I mean...
What did this awaken? Ro,
I'm just
tell
saying,
me.
I'd rather this. I'd much rather this than the Mummy.
Why?
Because I think similarly, which should have been a hint, I guess, coming into this, is like the Mummy's like overly long. There's like huge swaths of it I think you can get rid of.
It's the same thing for this movie. What do you mean?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying they're very similar in the fact that, like, really neither probably should be movies because they're not that good, but... maybe I'm just more invested, like, you know, I like werewolves, I like vampires, like...
Sure, but I like vampires and werewolves that are well done. But, like, also, the thing with The Mummy is that it has a coherent plot, no matter how long it is, how goofy it is. You can follow the plot and understand what's going on. There is no unity, there's no coherence in Van Helsing. I don't know what the fuck was going on the entire 2 hours. I paused it an hour in just to see how much was left. I almost shit my pants when I saw that there's still an hour left at 1 a.m. So...
I feel ya. Yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up with The Mummy because I was a very bubble child, so I don't have, like, the strong passion for it that many of my generation do. But yeah, you're crazy, Ro.
Agree.
Listen, Jill didn't like The Exorcist. I don't have to like The Mummy. It's
You don't have to, but
I'm gonna send you a giant box of those bumper stickers that say like honk if you'd rather be watching the cinematic masterpiece The Mummy starring Brendan Fraser that'll be your Christmas present.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Just spread them around town.
I mean, I think another problem with this, just from like honestly, there's not, I was even looking into this, I was like, it's kind of interesting, like such a big budget film and stuff from like, as much as I'm shitting on The Mummy, I recognize The Mummy was like a huge movie. So, you know, like at this time, this director is also like rock starring it up. But like, there's really not a lot on this movie when you're like trying to look it up. But from what I did see, like this was supposed to be the beginning of this universe created. Like this was supposed
the Van Helsing cinematic universe.
Yeah, this was supposed to be like you're getting a Van Helsing movie every year, and it's gonna be, you know, Adventures with Van Helsing, and we're gonna have all these different monsters. So, but it was kind of weird because I thought throughout it was like I could feel that kind of
backdoor pilot.
And in the comic book world, like an origin movie that's just kind of like slower and all that kind of stuff. But it was almost like halfway through it was just like, you know what, this probably isn't gonna get a sequel, so like let's just balls to the walls it and you know, like kill everybody off, because I don't really know how you would continue on with this. Although they did have there was a cartoon prequel to this, apparently, an animation one that was leads directly into this. I don't know how successful that was, but I did see it. I don't know if I'll watch it. I don't know if I'll dedicate that kind of time to Van Helsing.
Is it like a full-length feature?
It's a full-length feature.
Okay, interesting.
I do have to give Steven Sommers credit. Like, he got closer to creating the dark universe than Universal ever did when they actually attempted that many years. I mean, you know, like, cool that a guy that loves Universal monsters that much got to make 2 Mummy movies and then also this crazy ass movie, even if they don't. I mean, obviously this doesn't interconnect with the Mummy, but still kind of cool that he got to do all that as a fan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see it come into fruition. I know they're working on one now again that I know.
Are they?
Yeah, James Wan's company has been hired to do it. Atomic Monster is like working on I don't know if they're going to be standalone, but they claim it's going to be a dark universe connection. So I guess, you know, if you're going to trust someone in horror to connect things, why not James Wan?
I saw a post recently that was like that promo image that they released of the cast of the Dark Universe, and it was just like, it's been 3 years to the day since this happened, or whatever. I forget how many years it had been, but I like that it's just like a moment that will live in infamy now, releasing a cast photo for a franchise that never happened.
I wonder if me being like kind of positive on this is also, I have this weird secretive love. I don't always talk about it, but I do love some good like steampunk aesthetic. And this kind of fulfilled my need for that. Not many movies do that. Obviously, you know, we just, you know, briefly shouted out Sucker Punch, which is really what you need if you're a steampunk fan. But I did like the use of like steampunk stuff. Some of the technology a little questionable, like when Carl's doing like the slideshow of who the monsters are, giving the breakdown. I'm pretty sure projectors like didn't exist back then. But you know, maybe I guess you can have this high powered crossbow work. Anything can happen in Van Helsing.
I want that crossbow. By the
crossbow fucking rules. I love the scene where like I love the scene where like the Q guy was, you know, doing the Q scene. I always love a good Q scene. Like, here's your fucking gadgets that you're gonna see overused throughout the rest of the movie.
Well, and I think like that beginning too, like, you know, because that's like in the first half of the film, I felt like I mean they totally oversold it, but I was kind of really on board at that point where I was like, oh shit, is this like kind of gonna be like a James Bond but Van Helsing? And I'm like, yeah, I can get down with that. But I mean, to work, this movie would have had to been shorter, and I really think this movie could have used the focus of one villain. This kind of had like the Spider-Man 3 vibes to me of like too many villains. We can't focus on one. So everyone is just basically like a hollow caricature of themselves. You know, it's like, oh, he's a vampire, so he's a bat and he's got sharp teeth. Like, ooh. Like you said, Patrick, we're like kind of like these characters are fully developed characters that have had movies, have emotional beats and like rich backstories where like I think if it was just Van Helsing versus Dracula and then, you know, another movie of Van Helsing and the Wolfman, like you could have really gotten to like a rich text of story for these.
Yeah, or throw in like maybe just 2 creatures or 3. Like, I mean, what is this I love, there's Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein, Jekyll and Hyde,
his dwarves or whatever, which are actual like they're German like folk monsters, like in real life. I forget their actual names, but yeah, they're like creatures also from like literary things.
I mean, you've got Dracula's wives, you got the weird fucking like bat children. There's so many. There's so much going on.
Yeah. I mean, like, literally it averages, like, every 15 minutes there's a new villain.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you know, this character that you thought was, you know, a hero, now they're also a villain. And it's like, Jesus Christ, we don't need any more, please. Like, stop twisting the knife.
You know what else there was every 15 minutes? A different accent.
Oh my god.
The accent work was so wild on this.
Oh, all of my notes are, what the fuck is this accent?
I was like, is Van Helsing actually American? Oh no, he's British. Oh no, he's it was shifting all over the place. And then also like the really staggering realization that he's supposed to be Dutch. So like none of the accents are anywhere near that if you're attempting some kind of accent.
I kept trying to like pick out, I'm like, I think I know where this is supposed to be taking place, but like I hear the accent filtered through like 4 different accents and I don't know what one it's actually supposed to be.
It should be like if it's in Transylvania, which is like Romania, it should be a kind of like a Russian accent.
It just felt like everybody was doing their American voices, doing a bad like Rocky and Bullwinkle like cartoon type impression.
Yeah.
You know, because like none of them, I think almost everybody in this movie was like Australian or just not American, but people that like frequently play Americans, and it's like, to me, I think that just completely screwed up. I think that's part of the reason why the accents are so bad, because it's like, what are you trying to do here, you know?
Well, Dracula especially falls flat, because he's just, I mean, I don't know, Dracula came across poorly in so many ways, but especially it's just like kind of the most half-hearted, stereotypical Dracula voice.
I thought they could have done a better casting on him.
Yeah, it was literally like the charisma of like, you know, cardboard. Wet,
he kind of just gave the feel of like a heavy or a big bad from like an 80s action movie. Like,
yes,
there was no real depth, and like I said, like even with a bad movie, like you said, Hugh is very charismatic in general, and I think you needed someone like on his level that could at least just kind of hold the space with them, because all their scenes, it's kind of like, oh, you know, there's Hugh and then this guy, or like Kate Beckinsale and then this guy, and he just kind of always got like outshone by them. I was gonna say, Jill, do you give a pass on the accent to Kate just because it's Kate?
No.
She gave you Underworld.
I know,
how are you gonna
but
do it like that?
I'm not. I just, you know, why don't we just watch Underworld instead?
I might do that tonight.
It had to be rough because she was shooting Underworld while doing this.
Yeah, she was like a superstar during this time. So the fact that she did this is so scary.
She's just super goth, and we just don't know about it, I guess.
She dated Pete Davidson like not too long ago. That's the funniest thing. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's important information.
One of my favorite pieces of Kate Beckinsale lore is
Here we go.
is paparazzi pictures of her from like, I want to say 2009, and she was like sitting down at like a table at a cafe outside somewhere with her husband and was like just literally like jerking him off through his pants or whatever under the table.
Hell yeah.
And everyone's like, oh my god, Kate Beckinsale's horny. I'm like, look at her. She's hot. Her husband is hot. Like,
go Kate.
God, yeah. I don't know why. I'm always like, that's the first thing that comes into my head. I'm like, Underworld, Broke Down Palace, and that time she was beating off her husband.
You mean under the table? Stuff Underworld.
Oh, God, not that.
Real Lauren Bobart situation there. I was going to say, okay, this is going to be the last time I talk about this and The Mummy. I swear. But I was thinking, because one of you guys already talked about the CGI, but I kind of gave a pass to the CGI. I was like, listen, the time period. And then I was also like, The Mummy CGI also sucked. It wasn't good. Like, it's pretty much on par for the CGI, but this one just gets, like, ragged on. Like, I was looking at reviews of this, and everyone is just like, the CGI looks terrible. But I was like, for a CGI-heavy movie of this time, like, I don't know, like, I thought it was pretty on par.
It had a higher budget than Return of the King.
Whoa.
Okay?
What's that?
And that's what it... Yes! And that's what it looks like? Jesus Christ, Rowan. Oh my god.
Ro's literally just going for jail tonight. Like,
I'm not a big Lord of the Rings guy. I have very similar views of Lord of the Rings as all the guys in Clerks too. So I think it's just books and movies about walking. Holds my interest very little. Jill's about the...
That is the journey motif, after all.
Oh,
come on.
That's insane, though. Like, because Return of the King came out around the same time as this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, I mean, because like, The Mummy was groundbreaking CGI for its time, and I think the CGI in this is not bad. It's just that there's so much. It's just everything is CGI, and it all kind of blurs together after a while. Whereas The Mummy, you know, I think any big action movie, at least for another couple of decades and still until the AI like perfects CGI to where we can't even tell anymore, like a mixture of practical and CG is what you need. Like, use the CG judiciously, and I think The Mummy does. I think Return of the King does. And this, it's just like just kind of CGI soup a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's like, how much can we crank out?
The Vampire Kids were like a step too far, I found. I could have like forgiven it on Dracula and the werewolves and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but yeah, I was like the room full of just like these fucking just not well designed vampire baby things.
Yeah.
I was hoping for aliens to come out when it was like, oh, it's like little pods. Like, I need the
I thought
spiky
the pods
tail
were
to come out.
cool.
Yeah, but it's until they opened. Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh, the pods are goopy and like they look weird. I was like, this is like real like sci-fi horror stuff.
Yeah, they reminded me strongly of the vampire babies, not the pods, reminded me strongly of, I think it's like pixies or something, and I think it's the second Harry Potter movie, like the little winged things that like fly out and bite the kids. Yeah, Cornish pixies, yes.
Yeah.
They reminded me a lot of that, both like just in the general visual aesthetic and the quality of the CGI.
I don't know what that is. I also don't like Harry Potter, so...
It also came out around the same time, so...
Yeah.
Ro, what were you doing in 2004 is what I want to know.
I was fucking watching...
Like, you weren't... And listen, as somebody who also hates on a lot of pop culture, like, properties, what the fuck were you watching? That's what I want to know.
What's the most, like, fucked up violent thing that came out in 2004?
I probably wasn't even watching that. I was probably just watching Killer Clowns from Outer Space for the 800th time.
Oh, that's a great excuse.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not my fault, guys. I did want to, you know, I feel like everything's been kind of negative. I did have a couple positives on it. I did really like the wagon set piece, and, like, I thought that was actually, like, a good action set piece. I thought like the intensity was well done. Like even the effects in that where it was darker, obviously they can hide the bad CG, you know, a little more. But like I thought that was super effective. That's kind of what I would expect on par for something like this. I thought that really worked. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but...
Oh, it was your great typical 2004 action horror. And I'm not saying that as a drag. Like, it's literally, I knew what was going to happen, and I was like, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this, because, you know, this is like the brand, and it was actually well done. I was like, I know what's going to happen, and it happened, and I feel like because of that, I appreciated it. You know what I mean? It kind of like, was like when you want to scratch an itch, but you know you shouldn't, because it's like a fly bite or something, and it's going to hurt, but then you do, and you know, that's still what it was for me, which also sounds like I'm dragging it, but I'm not.
I was curious how you guys felt about Schuler Hensley's portrayal of Frankenstein's monster. This was like a character that I just didn't really vibe with on this. I think I felt he talked too much. I don't know if I'm into, like, intellectual Frankenstein. He can be in touch with his emotions, but I don't want to hear him just, like, blabbing on. But, like, I was curious if it worked for you. Schuler Hensley, notably, has played Frankenstein 3 different times.
Whoa.
He's played it in this. He played him in a Broadway production and an off-Broadway production. But yeah, so seasoned Frankenstein's monster performer.
Wow.
But I was just curious if it worked for you guys. Like, I felt he was, like, probably my least favorite character in this, next to Vampire Babies.
I mean,
I get it, and definitely I think Frankenstein's monster having numerous, like, dramatic monologues is definitely not attractive. But also, to be brutally honest, he is one of the only characters in the movie that actually has any kind of, like, arc. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of like, I was grasping onto Frankenstein's monster for dear life. I was like, this is honestly one of the only things, like, centering this film for me, like, emotionally.
Yeah, I second that 100%. He was actually one of the things I liked best about it, too. Really? Yeah, I wouldn't go quite so far as to call him intellectual. Like, he still felt like he was not, you know, he was not all there. But I did like, it seemed like an actual character with an actual, like, personality that I actually felt something for, which I don't know if I can say for literally anything else, any other character in the movie. And I also kind of like the visual interpretation of Frankenstein too. It felt, unique, but I mean, certainly indebted to the Universal Monsters aesthetic, but, you know, doing something a little different. I liked when his head kind of like popped open during the fight and then he like clicked himself back together. That was cool. No, actually, he was actually one of the highlights for me.
See, I think for me, it was just, I like the original Frankenstein so much that I just, and I get it. I get what the audience is and why they did it, but I think it was just because, like, he kind of, you know, the original Frankenstein's great because, you know, all the pain and all the torment he's going through, like, doesn't have to verbalize it in the original one. Like, it's just, like, you can tell by, like, you know, the moans and the, like, the looks on his face, where I felt this, it was like, you know, he could talk, so then it's like, oh, you know, like, I'm gonna discuss why I'm upset. And I was just like, I think I prefer the other way better.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously not my favorite. Like, my favorite Frankenstein is obviously still Robert De Niro.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, yes.
I kid.
I will say kind of the same thing you said about Frankenstein, you know, liking the design and stuff. I did appreciate, you know, whether it worked or not, I appreciated his attempt to try to, for Sommers to do something different with werewolves, like have the transformation be nothing that had ever been done before. So, like, him ripping the skin off and then ripping the werewolf skin off. I did like that because I was like, oh, like, especially for, you know, for 2004, it's like, this is something that had never been done, like, this transformation process. Jill already looks
I
angry.
actually hated that, like, a lot. When I was watching it, I was like, this is, first of all, it looks fucking terrible. Secondly, why? Like, cool, you're doing something different, but, like, you're gonna just rip off your skin, and then, like, how many times are you gonna change, and, like, what are you doing with all this skin? I don't know. It It was weird to me. I didn't get it.
Would you feel better if he put the skin in like a trash can or something?
I mean, I would have been fine with a traditional werewolf transformation.
You are the werewolf aficionado of the podcast, so I'll trust your readings on that.
Ginger snaps.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, it's no
and whatever werewolf porn.
Just wear a suit.
You're reading.
Why we gotta do all the CGI?
Oh, a suit. Yeah, there you go. 2004 big budget Hollywood movie. Wear a suit. I mean, honestly, it's not a bad idea.
So I've got a kind of, I guess, philosophical question in general. We kind of brushed on it earlier. You know, we were talking about all these iterations of the Universal has tried to start up of the universe, this dark universe. But I'm curious, like, what you guys would like to see from like a dark universe, or like, do you think these should purely always be separated, like not be intermingled? Like, I'm just curious at your thoughts on this. Obviously, you know, I'm thinking like, you know, The Invisible Man did really well when it came out. That was a big hit for them. The Mummy, not so much, and I'm not talking about the one I keep ragging on. I'm talking about Mr. Cruz on this one, also didn't do great. But like, yeah, just kind of what you would like to see from these properties, because they're so iconic. Everyone, you know, everyone at least at face value says they love them, but they can never like get them right.
We were kind of just talking about this when we did the episode of Now Slaying for The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Same thing. I just want Universal to do a competent, basic, classic monster movie with what they have. Like we said before, they're sitting on a gold mine. They just need to like reap the benefits. And yeah, I think they could do like a whole universe thing, bring them all together again, but just competently, like not what Van Helsing is. But yeah, I would really love to see Universal winning with their monsters. That's what I want. This is why I'm so fucking sad about it.
Yeah, I think I want to see a certain like scrappiness to these movies, because the original ones, I feel like they didn't necessarily have big stars. They made some big stars in the process of making the movies, and yeah, they feel a little rough. And I like that, as opposed to, you know, we're going to have Tom Cruise in The Mummy and it's going to cost $1 zillion. We're going to have Hugh Jackman in Van Helsing and it's going to cost more than fucking Lord of the Rings. Like, I don't know, kind of take some chances with the material, which I think the Invisible Man movie, which rules, did. You know, I mean, it's Elizabeth Moss, an amazing actress, but not like a huge name necessarily. It wasn't hanging everything on star power. Yeah. And it did something really interesting with that concept instead of, I don't know, so often when they've tried this, it feels like they're just going for the cash grab and trying to just go as balls to the wall spectacle as possible. Like, give it to some weirdo writer or director, cast somebody that no one's heard of necessarily before, dump some of the CGI, and just make a fun, weird movie without some big, like, sprawling franchise agenda behind it and see what happens. Exactly. Radical ideas, I know.
Hell yeah. That's what the people
God
want.
forbid you don't set up, you know, a 10+ movie run, and then you have to overstuff every page of your script with, like, Easter eggs and, like, the seeds for something else. It's like, just have it exist on its own. And like I said, hire someone scrappy and, like, trust them to do something with it, right? Like,
yeah, and I mean, I say all this as, like, a pretty fucking big MCU fan, but one of the reasons the MCU worked is because they didn't. I mean, they certainly had their ambitions, but it wasn't like, here's the entire cast of our whole thing for the next 10 years, get ready, you know? And they gave it to Favreau, which was a weird choice, and they cast RDJ, which was a weird choice at the time. So I don't know, some of that energy. If, like, you can have the ambition to have a dark universe, but, like, I don't know, just take it a step at a time. Learn something from the fucking DCEU and everything else that everybody has tried to do to emulate the MCU success.
Oh shit!
Just wait till David Gordon Green's done with his Exorcist movies, and
God.
he'll be coming over. He'll say, "I'll make a trilogy for you."
No,
but it's just, to me, it's like so much of like movie making and shit is just like it's alchemy. It's not like some exact science, and it's like sometimes you just gotta try putting things together and trusting it, and like not having this formula set up for something else. And it's like, you know, like take a chance and put some elements together that maybe will mesh.
Kind of like making a monster.
Yeah, exactly. Frankenstein's fucking monster. Like, can we learn something from this, please? Also, I just want to say, maybe go back to the original material too. You know, the books and stuff that a lot of it is based on are still read and taught for a reason. And, you know, literally the material is there, and then spin off of that as you will. But like, show me something that Mary Shelley wrote from Van Helsing or Bram Stoker. And as someone who's read both of those books multiple times, I was like, there's not a single thing in this other than characters with the same names is recognizable at all. And it's fine, listen, like, it's whatever, but to me, it's just like, please, just have some reverence, right? Like, let's have some reverence. Keep the studio out of it.
So are you guys comfortable to go into rating this, or are you going to be upset with me, Jill, that you didn't get to go through your like 5-6 pages full of notes? Or
You're funny.
So if you are new to the program, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Patrick, this was your pick. What would you give 2004's Van Helsing?
I'll give it an okay. I mean, obviously I've been mostly negative here, but, you know, I mean, if you want to just watch some, like, CGI monster throwdowns and turn your brain off for however fucking long this goes on, like, sure. Which is probably the most damning with faint praise I've ever given anything. Yeah. But it was like, I don't know, it was not offensive to me. It was just kind of tepid. So I'll give it an okay. How about you, Mike?
I will also give it an okay. I'm kind of in the same mindset as you. I mean, we can spend hours, you know, picking apart all the weaknesses that it has, because there's a lot of them. But there's a small part of me that, I understand where they were coming from, even though they failed. And B, I have a very soft spot for this kind of era of, like, blockbuster movie, especially, like, horror movies. And actually, because we were talking about, you know, Underworld and stuff like that. And there was some really good shit that is in this genre at the same time. So while this is a really poor example of it, there's just a part of me that kind of finds it comforting. And like I said, like, I could put that on the background and switch off if I was, like, folding laundry or something. You know what I mean? Which, again, maybe that's slagging on it, but I don't know. It's an okay, but like, I wouldn't never watch it again. You know what I mean? Jill, yeah. I need to hear your rating. Like, please.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's gonna be a nay for me. I thought it was unwatchable. I was thinking about not finishing it and stopping like 1 hour in. No, because I thought it was literally going to be over. And like, it just hurt my soul. Really hard for me to watch, especially because it seemed like something that I would be interested in. And it just sucks. What about you, Rowan?
Yeah, I'm going to give it an okay also. Like Patrick, I didn't think it was offensive. You know, I don't know if it was just the mood or whatnot. I turned this on the other night at like midnight, 1 o'clock, and I had a really good time with it. Jill was texting me like, I hate my life. And I'm texting her just, you know, having the time of my life. Like, I was just in for the camp. I was in for the long hair Hugh Jackman of it all. And, you know, I was just shutting my brain off. Like, sure, let's just watch Van Helsing beat up monsters for 2 hours. Like, that seems okay with me. I did kind of feel the length as it went on. There was a couple spots where it seemed like logical endings could have been placed. And then, like, a continuation for another movie, but they just kept going and kept going. So, you know, that was not great. But yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot more worst films than this. So I will give it an okay. So if you are not already following us on social media, you can do so at the It Slays podcast. We're on Facebook, X, Tumblr, Letterboxd, Instagram, Slasher. I don't know, what else is there? Blue Sky, Threads. Basically anywhere there is a social media, we're probably there at the It Slays podcast. Also, it's spooky season, people. So you can go to Spotify and go to the It Slays podcast horrific playlist. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media I just mentioned. In the bio, there's a Linktree link. It'll take you to there. We upload music from horror movies we review, or iconic horror movies, or just horror movies we love. And that is score or licensed music. And yeah, go listen to that. Get your spooky music on. And I want to do clear a little runway room to let Patrick let you know what he's got going on, brag about his podcast a bit, all that good stuff. Patrick, let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find us at Every Horror Movie on Netflix.com. You can find the podcast itself on your podcast provider of choice. You can find us on social media at AmonCast, and that's spelled EHMON cast for Every Horror Movie on Netflix. And we have something fun coming up later this month. Rowan and I just worked on a pretty big project together that I don't think I can actually spoil quite yet, because it's still is probably going to be a little while after this episode comes out that it will be coming out on our show. But if you want to hear that, tune in. Rowan's been on the show a couple of times. He reviewed every Nightmare on Elm Street movie with us one time, and that was a blast. So yeah, we'd love to have you come listen to the show.
Yeah, as always. I mean, I feel if you're listening to us, you're probably listening to you guys also, because we're just sister podcasts. We're always just bragging about you guys. So
yeah,
that's how it works.
Yes.
But as always, thank you for all the support. We'll be back with another Patreon pick next month. I don't even know who's next on the list. I think Mark. So if you're listening, Mark, we're coming after you to get that pick. So we might have to send Van Helsing after you. As always, I am your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
Bye.
Bye, it's Patrick.
See you later.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Mom left the new Fletch.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.